What's going on, y'all? I know it's been a while. It's probably been close to a year since I made my last video, and as you can tell, it's a little bit different this time. So what I have for you guys today is actually something special, an actual car review. I know most of you guys know my channel from my internet reviews. I guess you can call them internet reviews. I'll be just going through the car prices online, going through Car Gurus, Auto Trader, Facebook Marketplace. But I stopped all that because one, I got really busy with school and work. Second, the car prices started to go crazy, so I really couldn't give you accurate information. But I'm here today to present you my newest purchase, and that is my new to me 2007 E63 M6 Coupe. So, I know what you guys are thinking. I know exactly what you guys are thinking. You're wondering, Anwar, why on earth would you get the least reliable, dumbest drivetrain car you could possibly find? And for those of you who aren't familiar, this does have the S85 V10 with the SMG transmission. The infamous SMG transmission. So why did I decide to get this car? Well, for one, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but my daily currently is 2001 LS430. And although that car is amazing, it's showing its age, surprisingly. 21 years old at this point, 230 something thousand miles, and on coilovers that have been on it for the past 50,000 miles. So those are done. The bushings are done. The engine needs probably all new coils. I need to do the timing belt. I need to I gotta do the knock sensors. I gotta pretty much do a whole like engine tune-up. So instead of spending the $1,000 to $2,000 to fix my Lexus, I spent $14,000 buying this. So 2007 BMW M6. They're cheaper than an E92 or E90 M3, but they're way faster. Now, I have a couple reasons for why this car is super cheap compared to the 3 Series, compared to even the 5 Series. And that's simply because people don't know about this car. Ever since I got it, my neighbors have asked me what it was. People have come to me at the gas station asking me what this thing is. They don't know what an M6 is. They've probably never seen one before, especially one of this generation. So, besides the fact that no one knows what it is, I can't think of any reason why it's so cheap. People try to give the argument that the rod bearing issues with the S85 and the SMG pump are big issues, which they are. But you have to realize that these cars were built to be driven hard. This one, however, is in pretty good condition. It has 108,000 miles. I bought it with 104, so I've driven it a lot. Rod bearings done. Throttle body actuators done. New bushings in the front. The thrust arms are replaced. New tires all around. And I'm happy to say that this is probably one of the most reliable cars I've owned, aside from the Lexus, but I don't think that counts in terms of measuring reliability because it is a standard. So let's see what we're talking about under the hood with this S85 V10. Open the hood real quick. Oh yes. BMW's one and only S85 V10, 5-liter, 90 degrees, 500 horsepower stock, 383 pound-feet of torque, I believe, stock. But this one's special because it's actually tuned. So it makes around 550, I'd say. It's a little bit over stock, not too much, but the real difference is the torque in the mid-range. I got an ESS tune. It's a little plug-and-play tune you can get online. I also have the BMC performance filters and the block-off plates, as well as the RPI intake scoops. Now, I know what you're wondering. The tune itself online, the ESS tune, says it adds 15 to 20 horsepower. So where did I get 550 from? Well, when you count the carbon filter delete, the BMC air intake, or the BMC air filters, and the block off plates, as well as the RPI scoops, it definitely is an extra 50 horsepower. Also, people don't know this, but these RPI scoops work best at speed, so you can't really tell what they can do until you're going 80 plus. And apparently, this is what I've heard on forums, is that they add about 80 horsepower at high speeds. I know you guys are wondering, so you got a perfect condition M6 for 14 grand? That can't be possible. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's not in perfect condition. There are some problems with it. For example, it actually has a minor diff leak. You probably can't tell because it's not leaking at the moment. You can see the heat sink from the diff right there. It's leaking right in front of the heat sink. I think it's coming from the drive shaft seal, which is a big issue, but it's been kind of more like a weep than a leak. So I'm just gonna leave it until I start hearing some noise from the differential. I got it inspected and everything, so there is still a good amount of fluid in the diff, so it's not dangerous for me to drive it around. But as I said, it is weeping a little bit. Also, power steering fluid, it's kind of seeping out of the rack. I was told that they don't do rack rebuilds for the M6's rack, and you gotta buy a whole new rack basically. I probably have to top off some power steering fluid every couple weeks or so. I add maybe like, I don't know, I gotta get it from like the minimum line to the max line. Also, while we're on the topic of fluids, this car drinks oil. This car absolutely drinks oil. Every 1,000 miles, it takes about a quart. Now, I remedied this by switching to Redline 5W50 oil, as recommended by Troy G-Up. If y'all don't know who he is, look him up. He's the S85 king. All right, he says to change the oil from the Castrol 1060 to Redline 5W50, and also change the thermostat from stock one to a Viper thermostat. The reason why he recommends to change the oil as well as the thermostat is because of the rod bearing issue. If you guys aren't familiar with the rod bearing issue with these cars, which is probably hard to believe because that's the only thing these cars are known for, not because they're beautiful, not because they're built amazing, not because they're faster than almost everything on the highway, including supercars, but because probably 3% of the engines have experienced rod bearing failure. So what I did to prevent this was I switched to Redline 5W50 oil, and I changed the thermostat to a Viper thermostat. This allows the engine to not allow coolant to flow as early. Basically allows the engine to get hotter before it puts the coolant through the engine, which allows the engine to get hotter faster, which brings the oil up to temp so it can lubricate the bearings. Because the biggest problem is that people will drive on 10W60 oil, the car will think it's too hot too early, and so will start to cool the engine before it's reached its operating temperature. And so what happens when that happens is that the bearings end up not being lubricated until the engine is actually heated up, which could occur 10, 15, 20 minutes into your drive. I don't care what people say, man, this car looks amazing, especially from up here, this angle. How close the windshield break is to the slope of the hood just makes it look exotic. These wheels are also amazing. These man, I can't even remember, style 167, maybe 167M, something like that. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but these 19s, amazing. I don't even know what wheel I would replace these with. I was thinking about it long and hard of what wheel would look better with this body style and these 5 double spokes. They're hard to beat. Also, when I got the car, new brake discs and pads in the front, just pads in the back. Discs probably have to go sooner than later. The car does have an aftermarket exhaust, which I will show you in a second. It's not too loud, but it definitely gets the job done. Not only is this car timeless in its design, this rear section, probably the most controversial part of the whole car, is easily one of my favorites. Let me show you why. Not only does this car look like a UFO from the back, the roundness is just so unique. This line, how it curves around, just looks so insane from up here. And just to see how wide it is, amazing. But let me show you why I like this car so much, or why I like this section of the car so much. Ignore my dirty trunk. It looks like a Porsche. I'm only kidding. But this design is so interesting. I've never seen a car that looks completely different with this trunk open like this. I know on the original concept for this car, I can throw in some pictures. This trunk section actually followed the line of the headlight or the tail light, and this whole piece was actually a spoiler that was connected something like this, in this fashion. So if you can imagine that this is a spoiler and this part is still rounded and the spoiler just comes out. Not sure why they decided to change it at the last minute like this, but still looks good in my opinion. I guess I'm gonna do a little Doug DeMuro style review from the inside to show you the interior. As you can see, this car is optioned with black leather and full carbon package, as well as the extended leather package on the top of the dash. You can see the 3-spoke BMW M steering wheel, characteristic of most M's of this era. You have the SMG shifter right here. Not a big fan of this color contrast compared to the rest of the interior, but it is what it is, I guess. Same thing with this metal dial and this cup holder. A couple things I don't like about this interior. One, the cup holders. You got one cup holder here, which can fit a bottle of this size, nothing bigger. So if you have a big cup, it won't fit in there. The second cup holder is right here, located behind the center console thing. And this cup holder is even worse than that one. It's about 1.5 inches deep. It has the loudest cup squeezers, and when you take anything out, it's the loudest noise. I hate that. This car actually has an old iDrive because it is a 2007, as you can tell by this plain silver dial. They did upgrade the iDrive in 2010 with the whole CIC system. This one's a CCC, as you can tell, because it has a DVD-based nav. As a driver's car, as a car for $14,000 with a V10 and a single clutch, you're really not buying it for the infotainment system, obviously, but it does show its age through the system. And there are people that have upgraded the system to a 2010 system, which allows you to plug in your phone and allows you to control your music from the screen and everything. One more thing, I said that this has the old iDrive system, as you can tell by this dial, but on 2008s to 2009s, they upgraded the dial, but not the iDrive system. So you can't actually get the full upgraded iDrive system until 2010. One thing I like about the M6 compared to the M5 or the 6 Series compared to the 5 Series is the interior. You can tell just by being in here that it's a step above, you know, it's a step above in terms of quality, in terms of build. When you shut the door, very solid. One of my favorite, absolute favorite pieces of this car is how the door flows into the dash. Just like a Bugatti. Extended leather package continues around and over the dash. Also has the heads-up display option. M logo embossed on the headrest. Oh, and this one has a carbon fiber roof. I mentioned it earlier, but every M6 comes stock with a carbon fiber roof. This was the first M car to have a carbon fiber roof, so this kind of set the trend for the future. And with the carbon fiber roof, the Coupe weighs in at around 3,800 pounds, which surprisingly is very light, because when you compare it to a 3 Series of the same generation, it's around 200 pounds more. The convertible, on the other hand, is way heavier at 4,400 pounds, but that's not even a comparison. This car has a Logic 7 sound system. I believe it has 16 speakers, and it sounds amazing. When compared to my Lexus, I have upgraded speakers in my Lexus and a subwoofer, and this is almost on par. In fact, this probably exceeds a lot of the Lexus sound quality. The Lexus only beats it in loudness because of that sub. This one does have subs. They're a little smaller and they're under the seat, but they're nothing like a big 12 sitting in your trunk. Headroom is pretty good in this car. I'm 6'4", I'm pretty tall, and this seat is pretty high up, and I actually have about an inch between the roof. As you can see, the difference between my seating position when I'm driving and this is way different. When I'm sitting, I'm actually a lot lower, with probably about like 5 inches in between me and the roof. Other than that, we got the traditional old school analog gauges. A lot of people don't like the analog gauges and a lot of people don't like the digital gauges. It's kind of like a toss-up. I'm a big fan of the analog gauges because of the simplicity. Only 4 gauges and 2 dials. What simpler gauge cluster can you get than that? And a little screen in the middle. BMW's gauge clusters for the E series are classic. They're timeless and they will never become out of style. As you can see, thick bolster. Got your paddle shifters for the SMG, that wonderful SMG. Down below we got the M dead pedal, we got the little brake pedal, and we got the gas pedal. It's so funny that these M's, unless it's an automatic, if it has any sort of automated manual, whether that be like a DCT, or whatever you want to consider a DCT, but DCT and SMGs, they all have the little brake pedal, which I think is really funny. This car has black Alcantara headliner, which is prime for a car of this year. 2007 with a black headliner is almost impossible to find in terms of cars in general, not in terms of the M6, because most of them, in fact, I believe all of them came with this black headliner if you had a black interior. But in terms of other cars, most cars around this era had tan interiors, and if they even had a black interior, they had a tan headliner. That's what my my Lexus is like, and I can't even tell you how nice it is to have a black headliner, especially one with no sunroof, meaning you get all this extra headspace. Now, the rear seats. I'd like to compare this car to a 911 in terms of its rear seats because they are absolutely unusable. The way I sit, there's about 2 inches in between the rear leg support, I guess you want to call it, and my backrest. You probably could fit a small child in the back seat if you had a small child in the front seat. As you can tell, there is not a lot of space for your knees once you start scooting the seat up, especially for someone of my size. But for demonstration's sake, I will actually demonstrate me trying to get into the back seat, and you can see how far this seat has to go up for me to actually fit back there. Let's see how this goes. Ooh. So, I mean, it's not bad back here when the seat is up. Headroom, non-existent. I gotta slouch a little bit. These buckets, if you want to call them buckets, they sit very upright and kind of make me, they force my head into the ceiling. Let's see. Okay. I can't put my feet straight. My feet are at angles. All right, and that's with the seat about 6 inches further up than I would sit. So you be the judge of how usable these back seats are. As you can see, my knees, I cannot move at all with the seat like this. So that's that. One of the only complaints I have about the exterior design is these unnecessary panel gaps that seem to appear randomly along the car. So first we have this hood panel gap right here, which is unnecessarily large. I don't know why it is. I guess for the clearance to open the hood, but I don't know why they didn't just engineer a better system. Second is this panel gap right here going along the hood. See how it gets narrower as it gets to the bottom? And you can kind of just see it when you're walking around the car, and it just looks bad. Bumper panel gaps are all right. But this one is probably the worst one, the trunk panel gap. I really thought when I first got this car that it was not closing right. But after looking at other examples, that's really just how it is. Another thing I've changed about this car are these tips. Custom exhaust, but these tips are just baby tips. You need to fill up that space in between the diffuser and the tip. So I think I'm gonna put some 3.5, 4-inch tips on when I get the chance, as well as installing a custom X pipe because although it does sound pretty nice, I kind of want it to scream. This isn't my daily, so loudness is not an issue. Also, I forgot to mention the reason why this probably looks a little bit better than every other M6 is because it's lowered on IBOC, lowering springs. They don't affect the ride quality at all. They just give it about an inch drop, and you can still use EDC. Park sensors don't work. So what is it like to drive a V10 M6? Well, I'm gonna be the first to tell you that it's actually not as exciting as you may think. Now, even though this car is the fastest car I've ever driven, and the gear shifts at wide open throttle are insane, but when you're just putting it around, it's not that exciting. It's pretty regular. I actually like that about this car. In fact, that's one of the main reasons for M cars is the duality of the personality. You can have an M car be completely balls to the wall, and you can also daily it. I wouldn't recommend dailying this car purely because of the SMG and because of the gas mileage, but you can if you want to. That's on comfort mode. When I first got the car, it was actually a fishbowl, and it was one of the most uncomfortable driving experiences I could have ever imagined. I don't know how you guys do it without tint. When people see me driving this car, they be getting kind of mad. They be looking at me like I stole it or it's not mine, and people just give me a scowl. So I don't know if that's any important information to you about driving a car like this, but I'm sure it happens to everyone in all sorts of cars that aren't really driven around by everyday people. But as I said, this car floats. Unlike my 335, which was kind of rough and it didn't feel as refined or sophisticated, this car absorbs bumps so well while also remaining very flat around the turns. It's pretty impressive. This EDC system with its 3 settings, comfort, normal, and sport, make this car be able to handle almost any conditions. It's pretty amazing what this car can do, and it's raining right now. Wow. I guess we can't go as hard as we usually do, but we can still take it for a little spin. I know it's raining, but we're still about to go. Still about to take it for a little spin. Responsible this is, but woo, slipped a little bit there. I may have said this car is not exciting before, but that's when you're just driving it around like regular. When you're whipping it around, this car is fun. I literally can't stop smiling when I floor this thing. I hope you guys can hear that sound. Never ceases to amaze me, this car. Ever wondering whether you should get one of these or an E60 M5? If you can find one that has the rod bearings done, this one had everything done. Rod bearings, throttle body actuators, clutch, SMG pump, bushings, new tires, pretty much everything. The only thing that's wrong with this car is the parking sensors are broken, and they worked when I got it, so I don't know what happened. A couple complaints I have about this car in terms of its driving dynamics. The steering is very vague. and it's really light at high speeds. Like when you're going above 150, the steering actually becomes annoyingly light and it feels kind of dangerous. But who goes above 150 that much, to be honest? Let's do another pull. That speed there. Luckily we're out in the middle of nowhere, so driving fast like this isn't that bad. People just pulling out, god damn. Has good brakes too. God damn, this rain. Hope no one's coming around this turn. Oh, it's pouring now. Let me slow down. I know I said that this car was perfect, but as you can tell, I just broke this thing. So I guess I'm gonna end that video there. Hopefully I can fix this paddle shifter. But y'all be easy. Thank you for watching my channel. This has been On War and Cars, and I am sorry for waiting this long to upload a video, but I promise you guys that one will come shortly soon. Thank you.